Hello, welcome to Mr. Paul's Pantry. I'm Mr. Paul and it's nice to see you here. If you're a new visitor, very warm welcome. If you're returning, nice to see you back again. Now, it's only a very short while to Easter now, and so I've been looking through my list of requests, and one of the most requested over the past months, especially for this time of year, has been for hot cross buns. So today I'm going to show you how to make those. And I'm going to go get changed, move into the kitchen, and then I'll show you the ingredients to start with, and then we'll get cracking. So here are the ingredients for the hot cross buns. We've got 500 grams of flour. We've got 75 grams of caster sugar. We've got 10 grams of fast-acting yeast. We've got 2 teaspoonfuls of mixed spice, 1 teaspoonful of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use the zest of these 2 small lemons, or 1 large lemon. I haven't got a large one. I'll be using the zest of those 2 small lemons. I'm also using 40 grams of butter. Now, if you want, you can use 40 grams of vegetable oil instead. I've got 1 egg, which I shall beat. I've got 200 grams of, I'm using sultanas here. You can use any kind of dried fruit you want. And I've got 50 grams of candied peel. This is candied orange peel I'm using. And lastly, 300 grams of milk, which I will gently warm in the microwave to blood temperature. So those are the ingredients, and don't have to bother writing them down because they will all be listed underneath the video and also on my website. All right, let's get it into the mixer and get going. Right, so we're going to put in the main ingredients into the mixing bowl. Now, you don't have to use a stand mixer if you don't want or you haven't got one. You can mix it by hand. It is a little bit stiff, the dough. I can't manage it with my arthritis, I'm afraid. But one thing about this recipe is it doesn't need a lot of kneading. It doesn't require much kneading, not like bread. So I'll show you how to do it in the mixer. And we've got the flour, and we're going to add all the other dry sort of ingredients. That's the salt, the yeast, the nutmeg and the cinnamon going in, and the sugar, all those ingredients. First of all, we're going to give them a little mix. I think we'll just give those, just get the spices mixed in nicely. Now we're going to add the peel, the fruit, and the lemon zest. That will give a real nice citrusy taste to the finished buns. And to give that a little mix next, just a few turns, it doesn't need to be much. And now we're going to add, if you're using butter or oil, you add whichever you're going to use there. Butter or the oil. Remember, if you use the butter, soften it in the microwave so it's liquid when it goes in. We're going to add the egg, and the milk. Now we need to only mix this until it comes together. Doesn't require a lot of kneading like the bread, so we're just going to do that gently on speed 1. Now I'm just going to scrape down, excuse me, just going to scrape down the sides of the bowl so that the dry mixture gets mixed in quicker. And I'm going to move that now up to speed 2. And don't forget now, as soon as that comes together, whether you're mixing it by hand or in a mixer, it's almost there now. That's it. It doesn't need any more mixing, so we'll just take that off the dough hook. Now that needs leaving for 45 minutes or thereabouts for it to rise. But it's very important we cover that up. Now I'm going to cover it with cling film. You can cover it with a tea towel or whatever you want, but it needs to go into a reasonably warm place, draft free, for about 3/4 of an hour to 1 hour until it's sort of started to rise. Okay, and I'll come back and show you what it's like after that time. I'll just get the cling film and then I'll put it to rise. Right, now your dough now should have almost doubled in size after 45 minutes. If you can see that in there, it's about doubled in size. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove it from the tin, from the basin. Just put a little bit of flour on the side, it's a bit sticky there. And what we're going to do here is we're not going to knead it a lot. What we're going to do is just knock out the air that's developed whilst it's been rising there. Just knock out the air. This is what we call knocking back. And as I said, we don't need to knead it a lot like bread, but we're just going to knock all that air out so we start again. It's a nice soft dough, as you can see. Now, if you're wondering why it's a dark colour like this, that's because of the spices in it. And I've used fresh ground spices, allspice and a mixture of mixed spices and, of course, cinnamon. But in the bakery, we use something called bun spice, which is liquid. It's a clear liquid. It's extracted from the proper spices, but it's a clear liquid so that if we want to flavour something like icing or something white or light, it doesn't change the colour of the dough. Now at this stage, what you need to do is weigh your piece of dough. If you've done the recipe correctly, you should be able to divide your bread into 12 equal parts, weighing 100 grams each. I'm just checking this here. If you haven't done the recipe or you've changed it, weigh it, put it on your calculator and divide it by 12. That will tell you how much each of your hot cross buns ought to weigh when you're dividing up the dough. Now you can weigh them or you can just eyeball them by guessing, it doesn't matter. I always weigh mine, so I'm just going to go through that bit quickly and show you how I do it. Okay, so right, let's have a look now. Once we get it almost right, it's quite easy guessing it then. That's 1. Okay, so I've cut out the all these balls now, and I'm going to roll them into nice neat balls. I'll just move. Well, I just put a little flour there so they don't stick on the table. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit of cling film and we're going to grease it because we need to cover this up. Cover these up until they rise again. So I'll just a little bit of grease on there. There we are. And then this is the tin I'm going to put them in. It's a roasting tin. I've well greased it in there and I'm going to place them in here now close together, because what we want them to do is when they rise we want them to sort of join forces and all join together. There we are. I think that will do nicely. They don't need to be touching at this stage, but then, and now we're going to put this greased bit of plastic over the top, and we're going to leave those like that in a nice warm place for about 1 hour. So as soon as the time's up, I'll be back and show you what we do next. Now for the crosses on the hot cross buns, we're going to just mix some flour and water. So I'm going, for that small amount that I'm going to use, I'm just going to add ,30 grams of flour and 30 grams of water and mix it well. Just mix it until you've no lumps, that's all. And that's what it should look like. Okay? Now if you have a piping bag, you can use it. I've only got very large ones, so I'm not going to use one. I'm using an ordinary polythene bag. What you need to do, this is a nice way of doing it, put it in there, put the mixture you've made for the crosses inside, there we are, and then we'll come to that in a minute. Now here we have the hot cross buns. You can see, take the paper off, the plastic off. They've risen nicely now, very, very nicely. So what we're going to do is put the crosses on. So take your piping bag or your polythene bag or whatever you've used into one corner, like that, into one corner, and I'm going to just snip off a little hole in the corner there. And then we're going to go right across the buns like this, gently. Don't worry about going from one to the other. And then go the other way. There we are. And they're ready for the oven. Now they're going to go into the oven at 190 for 15 minutes only. So I'll put those in the oven and we'll be back shortly. And here they are, straight from the oven. I'm just going to leave them to cool for a few minutes and then I'll get them out of the tin onto the cooling rack. Right, the way we're going to do that is I'm going to put a cooling rack on top of there, like that, and turn it. Lift off the tin. Then I'm going to put the other cooling rack back on there and turn it. And there we are. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to glaze the tops because I've made some what's called simple syrup here. It's equal quantities of sugar and hot water dissolved, nothing else. Just equal quantities of some sugar and hot water. And that just glazed the top nicely. Some people use golden syrup on them, some people use honey on them, but I find just a little bit of simple syrup like that, whilst they're still hot, makes just all the difference. It's optional, you don't have to do this, but I do think it brings out the beauty of them, both the look and the taste. There we are. I'll turn those round so you can see both sides. I'll let those cool now and then I'm going to try one. Now I know they're supposed to be toasted, these, we normally have them, but I think you can see how beautiful and soft the crumb is inside. It's absolutely light as a feather, and I'm going to use some of this butter, which actually is homemade. I managed to get some nice fresh cream one day last week, and I made a little bit of butter. Although we do have very nice butter here in Spain, but I'm just going to give that a good taste. That's absolutely delightful. I couldn't wish for anything better. I hope you have a go and make them. You'll really be delighted with them. Well, if you have any comments, questions or anything, leave them down below underneath the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, press the subscribe button and then you'll see a little bell icon. If you click on that, YouTube will tell you every time I put up a new video, so you won't miss one. So all I have time for today, I've got to go finish these now. So see you next time, and thanks for calling round. Bye!